Hey everyone, it is Tuesday. This is Trekland HQ. Yes, and we are live. Happy 59th. Seeing the man trap through fresh eyes. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47, and yes, the home of Trekland Treks. Your customized away mission through Southern California. It's a day. You pick the places. I help you out. We get you escorted everywhere you need to go for a really remarkable true life experience. Living your best Star Trek, not on stages, but out in the open areas, right? Hey, listen, everyone. Happy Star Trek Day, a day belated. I didn't move to Monday. Good thing, because Monday was pretty busy, big day for me. And it was a pretty busy day across all of Trekland, too. I have had a great 2 or 3 last few days here. It was kind of buttoned down after the big cons this summer. And I know the big cons are still going on. A lot of regional convention activity happening, and may get around to some of that. And a lot of surprisingly big Star Trek news happening yesterday. But first, let me just say welcome to everybody who's popping in. Welcome to everybody, especially for the first time. If you're new to Tuesdays Live here, Trekland Tuesdays Live, we've got the TTLers in the chat. You want to make sure and introduce yourself if you are new. Let us know where you're coming from, what the weather's like, what the trek is like there. Love to hear from you. If you're a lurker long time and feel like spouting off today's your chance. It's going to be great. Today it's me on a soapbox, and as usual, that means we're going to be chat heavy after I go off on my rant or my very polite notes. But most of all, just to know, I hope you're coming to us on YouTube. Number one, you're going to see all the comments in the chats. Number two, you have a chance to, if you would be so kind, to throw a little silver my way, because aside from my very humble Patreon, that's the only way that the streaming is supported around here across Larry's YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe over there. Yes. Now, if you're on Twitch, you'll see all the comments too. If you're on Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook comments, which is increasingly a smaller and smaller share. And if you're watching us later on, not live, I'm so glad you are with us here. Hey, you can always comment there on YouTube in the comment section, obviously. Maybe you can join us live on a Tuesday. I know I'm coming at this time early afternoon. This time of day, we can encourage the whole world to be with us. The Europeans, East Asia, Australia, up the coast can be with us easily the next morning, I think. Anyway, I love this time of day because we can get a really worldwide sample, which is what I do unless I'm just indulging my American primetimeness. So it's great to have so many folks from around the world with us. And that means time zones that, Star Trek Day gets celebrated in a little bit of a staggered fashion, but we're basically all there together, September 8th. And yes, I know, about 10 years ago, someone realized that the Canadians, was it CTV, had Star Trek 2 days early on the 6th. So September 6th is Star Trek Day in Canada. Officially, you guys have to be different with everything. Thanksgiving, your Independence Day, it has to be your own. Okay. I'm surprised you haven't moved New Year's. But we love that. September 8th is the acknowledged start date from the NBC airing of The Man Trap. Now, look, especially in the streaming era, when things had been fallow, i.e. no real corporate budgets put to anything. And then the comeback of Discovery, one of the outflows of that was that suddenly it wasn't just an inside thing to look at the people in your fan buddy circle and go, hey, it's Star Trek Anniversary Day. Hey, happy Star Trek anniversary, or happy Star Trek birthday, something like that. No, starting with the 2016 or 2017 buildup for Star Trek Day on the 8th prior to Discovery's premiere, suddenly the studio was proclaiming it was Star Trek Day. Oh, it is? Okay, it's not Star Trek's birthday, Star Trek's anniversary. It's Star Trek Day. Okay, CBS, you're throwing some money at this. So they're putting promos out there, having the new cast. Remember when there were like 47 people in the Discovery cast officially because we didn't know at the beginning that half of them were going to be killed off? They were all Georgiou's crew that weren't going to be around more than 1 or 2 episodes. Well, and no one was bothering to let you know about that until you watched the episodes yourself. Okay, fine. But that's when it really hit me that the yearly, not just the 5 anniversaries that it took 20 years to start doing in 86 with everything going on that year. But no, we have Star Trek Day, and yay. And even now, it's been a fallow time. I've been wondering this year what's going to happen with all the chaos and the changeover at Paramount, the dwindling down, the pipeline is getting smaller for, we're not at peak Trek, all the streaming shows. Wondering what Star Trek Day would look like. We're sure not having those live and or live streaming extravaganzas that we had, ironically, during the COVID time. Nope. Star Trek Day is what we got. But we got this news. That mystery Star Trek Scouts thing premiered for the little kids, apparently to some controversy from some quarters. I haven't sorted it out yet. I'll probably wait and talk about that next week, and we'll give it some breathing time. But yes, Star Trek Scouts is a thing. It's just people stumbled across the legalities 6 months ago. And just like Prodigy, kind of spoiled it, except no one talked about it after that, and we noted it here. So just in passing. But here you go, Star Trek Scouts. Let's talk about that next week. Star Trek Con is here. And there's a lot more hubbub about it than I was figuring, because there sure wasn't anything in advance. One press release for Comic-Con, one trailer, that was it. Well, now there is new life in this thing, and there it sits on all the podcast places and on the video channels as well. Got to talk about that a little bit, because yesterday was a firebomb. Star Trek Day events happening. I wound up going to the LA Times sponsored finale of season 3 screening for Strange New Worlds. So it was fun to see it on the big screen. Yes, I know the world won't get it until midnight Pacific time Thursday morning in the wee hours, basically. Most people are going to see it on Thursday sometime. It's an interesting episode, especially the way this season has meandered all over the place. And I want to think about it for a minute. Watching it on big screen was awesome. Having a panel at the end was cool too. And I got to, if you haven't seen them, I got to video, I got to live stream, I got to snap, make some social posts on my Instagram. I hope you subscribe. And yes, on YouTube. We did a live now at a location site near the Culver City Theater where we were last night for that event. So it was a crazy day. And then I had lunch with the great Aaron Walke, not to get too much into my social calendar, but caught up with his life and his project, Wings of Fire, that he's doing, which sounds like it's potentially going to be huge, since the Prodigy boat is still out there and could be for, 3 or 4 years. But apparently that's the way animation works. We learned so much in the modern era. I'm a little bubbly here because it's been a Star Trek Day like no other. And look, I hope everybody around the country, around the world, got to do a Star Trek Day. Did you have a Star Trek party? Did you have a Star Trek Day party, a get-together? Did you watch some screenings with friends? Folks were doing things over the weekend, much less on the Monday. It's kind of the silent international global holiday, don't you think? I think a lot more people were celebrating Star Trek Day, or at least acknowledging it, than, the mainstream media wants to admit. One thing I did over the weekend was, and it was long overdue, and it's where I'm coming from this today, what our title is about. Because look, over the years, since we've been ramping up the celebration, the marking of September 8th, 1966, and September 8th, you can use that as a birthday for the whole franchise. There's times when I worry, I get concerned that we only focus on the original series, and we don't think about September 8th, 66 as a birthday for the whole franchise. And again, 2 things. One, The Cage was shot in December 64. I know. If you want to party early on the big ones, like you could have started your 60th a year ago and just partied all the way through for 2 years. But officially, okay. Um, there's that, but then again, all the other series, they have people. We mark the anniversaries of the beginnings of Next Gen onward. The animated series, of course, also started on September 8th, just by happenstance, being the Saturday that it started. 7 years later, but okay. Only 7 years later, gang. Most of the time, though, all the other series, the movies have premiere dates. The series, we talk about the finales of series. It's the middles of the series that I wish somehow got a little extra attention. That's why on Trek Files this year we were thrilled to do a what was it, the 35th anniversary? Yes, the 35th anniversary of Best of Both Worlds Summer with Jonathan. If you haven't seen that one on the Trek Files, go back and catch it. And then this year was the 60th anniversary, not next year, but this year is the 60th anniversary of the second pilot, Where No Man's Gone Before. And that's why it was awesome. If you haven't heard it this week, we came back for season 14 on the Trek Files with none other than, well, who was a witness to seeing Where No Man's Gone Before that we can still talk to and reach out to? Yeah, the great Uncle George himself, George Takei, is my guest on the Trek Files this week. I hope you give it a listen. We talked about his memories of the first day of shooting Sulu. He had 2 scenes. He had about 3 or 4 lines in the whole episode. It was a pilot, but he had much promise to come, Gene had promised. And we talk about that on the Trek Files this week. So I'm going to go ahead and plug Trek Files, season 14's wonderful opener. We tie into Where No Man. It's 60th anniversary already, but in this general hoopla of Star Trek Day. The other thing about Star Trek Day the recent years, whether we're having a party in a bar, whatever it is, people are having a home party. What does everybody want to do? They want to recreate that night. They want to recreate Thursday night, September 8th, 1966. And what do you do with that? Of course, you haul out the Man Trap and show it. Yes, it is the Man Trap, not just Man Trap. There's so many V titles. It even beats Next Gen Season 3. And, after years and years and years of this, I get a little burned. I get a little shaded. I go, oh, God, are we really going to mark the anniversary of the original series? Are we really going to mark its birth? Are we really going to even metaphorically mark the birth of the whole franchise? Are we really going to watch the Man Trap once again? So I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't watched the Man Trap in years. If someone says, hey, we're going to have a Star Trek Day party or a screening or an event, and we're going to watch the Man Trap, I go, okay, yay for that. And then I don't go. I don't watch. Well, this weekend, my old friends, and I can say that, my longtime friends, the oldest club, Star Trek club here that's still existing in Los Angeles, the USS Angeles. Yes, it's an old original Starfleet chapter. Dave Mason and Lisa and all that gang, all the folks over the years that I've known. I said I've been promising to go talk at one of their meetings or lead a discussion or something, and I finally did. They had it on Saturday, not Monday. And I said, so, Dave, what are you doing? And he says, well, we thought we'd watch the Man Trap. And I was like, okay, but it's not my con, monkey boy. I said, that's fine. That's wonderful. And then I thought, here's a challenge. Why, instead of coming up with some blowhard talk, or much less a slide presentation or something, screen shares about the franchise and the original series, and so, why not just make this simple? Why not? Okay, we'll watch Man Trap, but let's do something else. Let's get our minds in the mindset of somebody who was actually lucky enough, somebody who was a sci-fi person in 1966, which was a decided slice of the minorities, who actually was excited to watch this, or who was just hanging around flipping channels. It was NBC's early premiere week for the new fall shows, back when that was a thing, and driving TV watching media. And people were starting to barely buy color TVs because they were getting quasi affordable, unless you were just way up there in the bucks. Let's put ourselves back in that mindset about the world and also about Star Trek, which is to say, there was no Star Trek. So I asked everyone there, I said, okay, just imagine you're going to watch this show. You've heard a little bit about it. There's some handsome guy and there's some guy with ears and they're in space. If you've heard anything about it at all, that's about all you got. If you were paying attention and watched some of the early, some of maybe you caught an interview in a paper, but more than likely, all you knew was what was in TV Guide that week, the little launch ad, right? And the blurb. I don't think there'd even been any review. If you were a review reader and you were looking around at your newspapers, even something to get in, because magazines, unless it was TV Guide or such, were on too long a deadline. Maybe the weeklies, but what weekly is there's no Entertainment Weekly. There's nothing. I mean, you had TV Guide, and then you had maybe your local newsprint newspaper edition, the TV insert, right? So you were pretty much flying blind, unless you were a sci-fi nerd who was in the slow motion, hot telegram at the time, your club newsletter, or somehow you'd gotten yourself to Worldcon, you'd been at Trekland in Cleveland, and you'd watched Where No Man's Gone before. And I can't remember if they showed the Man Trap or if he showed the Cage as his second one. But if you were lucky enough to see and hear Gene that weekend in Cleveland, one of just a few hundred people, okay, you knew what was coming. But most of the world did not. Most of the world, of course, had no idea, not just about Star Trek, but about fandom. You had no idea that Star Trek was going to be the spark that got Star Wars made. And then we're off to the races and running with pop culture, right? Everything to come. Everybody coming out of the closet, having more nerd babies in the closet before you even came out. And having everything to the fact that everybody else grew so big that Star Trek got squeezed, went away, got fallow, and has come back and now gotten relevant again. And leading media like the Fifth Network and leading streamers. CBS All Access was one of the first home content creators, the first. Head of ABC, head of Peacock and NBC, don't forget. Before all that, it was just people sitting down that night. And what did they see? We did this, I said, guys, we'll just throw some. Everybody has seen The Man Trap a million times. We're not spoiling and we're not interrupting anything. And I had a revelation. We sat down to watch this, and my head started clicking as well. What will we say here that you haven't, or even you hadn't seen as a million times sitting through before, with this specific viewpoint, looking at The Man Trap through fresh eyes. And I don't just mean 1965 eyes, I mean 2025 eyes. And I had a couple of amazing moments. Look, first of all, what is the first thing that people see, right? Ding, you have the station identification, you get your NBC, the Peacock. The following program is presented in living color on NBC. The Peacock. Very first thing you see, no fanfare, you see the teaser. That's what we call the cold open, the teaser, because it teases you to keep watching and not turn the channel. Teaser in 5 acts. The very first image you see is this. Yeah, we know it's iconic, but that is the first thing. Sitting there on that night in early September, right after Labor Day in 1966, and that is the first piece of Star Trek anyone on this earth, outside Desilu and its vendors and NBC, first piece of anything Star Trek people had seen. And notice, it's some of the new footage. Balls are on the nacelles. Luckily, they didn't start off confusing people right out of the gate with the slits, right? Okay, so we got the very best image going on. And you have a flyby. Now we know. It's how all Star Trek starts. But the very first thing people saw was this. Is that a spaceship? Is that a planet? It's not Earth. What is going on? I guess this is sci-fi if I didn't already know. And then here's what blew me away, gang. This is what blew me away. The very first shot we saw inside that starship, inside that spaceship, was this. You ready? Boom. Look at that. In 1965 eyes, you're saying, whoa, there's a black woman down there at the front next to that white guy. Maybe you're thinking this. And then you're like, wait, is that like a Satan guy back there in that chair? What is going on here? Well, very quickly, we're into conversation and we're into dialogue. We're into the Satan guy talking to somebody in a gold shirt on a planet, at least remotely. That's what your 1965 eyes are telling you. Your 2025 eyes are saying, whoa, wait a minute. The first time anyone ever saw Spock, he was in command. But he had the con. But more than that, the first time anyone saw Uhura, she was at the helm. Not an emergency, not a crisis. Navigation, excuse me. She's at the helm console. She's sitting at navigator's chair. I know. Pre-ops manager. The first time we see Uhura, she's down front, filling in at navigation. Now, here's the age-old thing about the early original series. Remember, 2 pilots, right? The cage, not usable. It doesn't even have our lead. Second pilot, well, the costumes are a little different. Some of the sets are a little off, but it's usable. We at least have Kirk in command, right? And then some more juggling. We get Nichelle as Uhura. We get Dee as McCoy. And then second season, we get Walter as Chekhov. But in that moment, in that pilot, we get a second chance pilot. Okay, we're in production. Now we got to put something to paper. We got to do it. We got to do it on budget. We got to deliver. All the famous banes of the original series on analog film, optical effects with a printer, that the more layers you put into your visual effects, the fuzzier everything was going to be. I mean, all of the aches and pains of getting the original series produced against the odds, against a lot of people who didn't care, people who thought it was too expensive and scary, both the makers and the distributors, and then the people that just don't get it. You read the making of Star Trek, you get it. But here's the thing. Remember, the Man Trap was a special selection. They could have showed the first pilot, but then that would have thrown people off. The uniforms are different, and Uhura's not in it, and Dee's not in it. So the network looks at this and says, what are we going to show for our first episode? Because by then, they wanted to get ahead and have things in the can to not get behind. Spoiler alert, they got behind anyway, getting episodes finished. Famously, Bob Justman standing on Gene's desk for rewrites. Famously, Daryl Anderson having a breakdown at Anderson Effects before they decide they need to use everybody in Hollywood for their visual effects, even though they may not be obviously up to standards now as far as quantity. So, Bob Justman and his library effects. Here's the thing to remember. That shot we just saw, yeah, Uhura's in her red. Remember, she has 2 episodes in gold? You had 2 pilots. The Man Trap was the 4th show filmed after the pilots. That's why the Man Trap is technically episodes produced number 6. What was filmed first? The first show they sat down to make after the 2 pilots as production to learn from, Corbomite Maneuver. Okay, but it has a billion visual effects. They realized, but they were learning as they went. Corbomite Maneuver was shot first after the pilots. It was the 10th shown, put on air. And by that time, the things that, Uhura was in her gold and Spock's collar was weird. And we all know all that. They were still getting the bugs out. But they had to hold up that many slots because it wasn't in contention for what are we going to show first. What was the next show filmed? What was show number 2 actually filmed? Mud's Women. Do you really want to put... They weren't space hookers. They were settler wives. Just like Here Come the Brides. Just like real life. It was more than 3. It was like a whole boatload. Wives for the lumberjacks in Seattle coming around the Horn in the 1840s from Boston. Real history. quasi-commemorated with the 2-season Here Come the Brides, where half the cast, including Mark Leonard, were Star Trek crossovers. And, of course, the inspiration for that Pro novel Ishmael, which was meant to be a cute fan novel, got sold to Pro to Pocket, and then Screen Gems yelled because it was obviously an homage to their property, which was in reruns by that time, obviously 20 years later, but still caused a ruckus. And Paramount was caught flat-footed in licensing because nobody realized the obvious crossover, because nobody in that department at that time corporately was fun. Mud's Women was not going to be the first show of Star Trek to be aired, to be unleashed on the public. What was aired next? The Enemy Within. Do you really want to unleash splitting one of your characters into a good and bad half before they've had a chance to meet the character in their normal state? No. So of the first 6 episodes, one was an unusable pilot. One was a pilot they'd rather hold on to because it was a lot of differences. One was the Space Wives. One was a character split in half. So the Man Trap became the de facto first episode. That's what they decided. What was shot after the Man Trap? The Naked Time. Yeah, that wound up being 4th. Charlie X was the 8th show filmed. It wound up being the 2nd when aired. So now we're off and running to the races. This is why over the years, Bijo's Concordance used the aired order. It's the impact that the shows had on people in their memories, because almost everybody in the audience then in fandom in the 70s, or a chunk of them, had watched from the beginning. The numbers were there. That's why Star Trek, even as the years have gone by, and yeah, the folks who watched week to week in the 60s have passed on. They've always kept it very intact to what was aired and what was produced. Because we do want to know, Uhura didn't randomly decide to wear a gold uniform one week, 10 weeks into the show. Those are the first 2 out of the gate produced. Spock's collar did settle down. So did his stripe spacing. So did McCoy. I mean, so much is revealed when you know to watch in production order. But to watch it in the aired order gets back to what I'm talking about here. What was the impact on the folks watching live in those days? And to watch it in 2025 eyes and realize the first time that audience saw Uhura, she was down front, right? So it's not just that. Keep watching. I mean, we all know that famous line, right? Miss Uhura, Vulcan has no moon. Why did that even? Oh, canon, Vulcan doesn't have a moon. Well, then what is that? Oh, it says double planet. Okay, we're off and running with a canon fix. Why were they talking about Vulcan's moon? Because Uhura set him up, right? Mr. Spock, what would you say? She's talking about being frustrated about hearing that word hailing frequency. Well, it is said about 18 times in the Corbomite maneuver. In their world, in the reality, the meta of filming this show, Nichelle had said hailing frequency open 1 billion times. It was a meta joke. She's already talked about it. Can I please do something besides sit back here with a thing in my ear and talk about hailing frequencies? It had already happened. This was the 4th 1 hour. They'd already built it into the show. But it was cool. Spock can say, well, I find that illogical that a communications officer would, go daft. That's not her word. Over the word frequency. And then she says, well, all I want, she tries to be a young woman. All I want to do is just know, what is it like to, on a romantic moonlit night on Vulcan? And he says, Vulcan has no moon. And she says, look, Mr. Spock, I know your people aren't big on emotion. Now, look, aside from the fact that after my stomach initially turned flip-flops watching my first screening of JJ Star Trek 09 and watching this alternate dimension, alternate timeline universe where Spock and Uhura are dating and trying to get past the fact that it feels like, the brother kissing his sister for 99% of the world going, ee. But then remembering that there were those touches, there were moments when you wondered if something could have clicked. In another reality, I could have called you my girlfriend. But what that does is, looked at from a different direction as we're meeting these characters for the first time. That opening scene with Nichelle with Uhura at the helm at Navigators, it's all in service to the plot, and she has no lines. She's just there as a visual presence. It's all about Spock talking to Kirk. So we don't know about Vulcans yet, much less Spock. The first person that we see introduce the audience, the first person who sets up Spock to tell the audience about Vulcans. And our first hint at this whole illogic, logic, no emotion, the whole mantra of Vulcans. Uhura is the one that sets that up. Now, did they know this? Oh, now it's time. It's the 4th episode. We're going to set this. No, it's come up before. But the reality is, for people watching that night, it may not have been planned. It's just the way it fell to those making the decision, with 6 in the can, 4 usable, 5 usable, 1 not usable, and that pilot soon to be cut into the 2-parter to save them some time, right? But it just taught me. It's like, look at what our 2025 eyes are doing, watching. Yes, it is worth a fresh look. It is worth it. Uhura kicked this conversation into high gear. Not in show 1. The first scene in Where No Man, Kirk does it at the chess game, right? But we're not going to get Where No Man's Gone Before for 2 more weeks. And by that time, we get it. We wonder why Spock is suddenly smiling here. And yeah, a couple of times kind of queasy, and a couple of other early episodes before that got, right? But that's not what America or Canada saw. They learned it because of Uhura. Now look, this is why we can't just erase the original airing from our consciousness, even as those folks age. And it has an impact, right? And we have to keep this straight so that as we look at, if you really want to get in the weeds and look at how the show blew up and in what order and what people at the time wrote, what did the formal critics write? What were some of the letter that we had? This is later in the season. We were blessed to have in the Trek files at the Roddenberry Archives, blessed to have a letter from a young woman, married mother, who watched This Side of Paradise, Spock and the Spores. She watched it that night, wrote a letter that night, stamped it, right? We're talking paper and stamp days. Mailed it the next day. It got to Desilu in the mailbag and got to Gene's office, a week later? But she was raving in a very refined way about what an incredible episode that was. And of course, it's This Side of Paradise. It's Spock and the Spores. It's late. It's a classic early episode, directed by Ralph Sininsky, by the way, written by Dorothy Fontana, rewritten. And it's part of that, real-time, not instantaneous twitting, not emailing, not posting on your boards and socials. The pace of the world then, but that was lightning fast. And that's what was happening over and over and over and over again. People being sucked in that first night. But what was the order that did it? What was the order that caused it, right? Now, look, there's all kinds of little things. Keep watching this. Your tired 30, 40, 50 years later eyes, you might be amazed at what you see here. I mean, some of these things we caught years ago. Like, I love McCoy using a wooden tongue depressor. Little things like it's a second opinion if you watch my second opinions. That guy in the engineering radiation suit with the stenciled numbers who winds up dead. There is a little bit of 60s leering, I'll say. There's a little bit of that with Janice, right? The couple of males after she walks by in the hall. Although I will say, on the other hand, compare that moment to what was, I don't know, on almost anything else you'd see on TV that way, especially network drama. I don't know, 77 Sunset Strip, whatever the hell was on, you would have had a lot more leering and good old-fashioned male chauvinism on anything else on TV. It was restrained there. But here you get Rand's biggest scene ever, aside from Miri, and aside from The Enemy Within. This is kind of her biggest sustained. This is what, remember, Janice Rand was number 3 on the call sheets. Remember all the early promotional pictures? It was Kirk, Spock, and Rand to be the big 3 lead. And then you watch the early title cards, the way they did guest stars in the day, and it's Rand and McCoy, the first 2 out of the gate being billed, which unfortunately, sadly, tragically went the way that did. And this may be the biggest scene ever for Sulu away from the helm. He's actually off in another lab. It's the famous Beauregard hand puppet scene. And watching the Gorn animatronic on Terrarium on Strange New Worlds, I just, it made me appreciate how far we've come since the hand puppet Beauregard. And yet, you'd expect that. It's only been 60 years. But how effective it was back then. And when you first watched it, did it linger on that thing long enough to figure out that it was really a guy in a hand with all of what they had done to it? Anyway, but you're getting Sulu away from the helm as a rounded character. Sadly, that trope would go away, and he'd almost never. At least Uhura gets to talk about how often do I get shore leave. Of course, George took a vacation second season to go to the Green Berets, so he lost out on some scenes. He lost out on the Trouble with Tribbles scene going with her. But look, overall, maybe until that, which survives 3rd season. I am for you, Sulu. Maybe until then. He has a bit with the space hippies. He has the bit during the court-martial and Turnabout Intruder. I know. Overall, if you think about the pivotal character here is a monster. They love to talk about, it's the monsters of Star Trek. Well, of course, monsters. A Horta was a monster until you found out it was just another. That was Star Trek's bit, was bending over backwards. Why does everything we don't understand have to be called a thing? Later on from McCoy. But overall, this has a very, for the time, a very Twilight Zone, a very Outer Limitsy, right? It is the monster. It is the metaphor, though, also. There's not so much a surprise twist here, because the reveal is 2/3 of the way through. That it's Crater, and it's not really her, Mrs. Crater, Nancy Crater. It's a shapeshifter. The word shapeshifter is never uttered, though. Do you notice this? We're not quite the sci-fi savvy audience yet, the mass audience. They have to explain it, right? But it does have that kind of, even the metaphor of the passenger pigeon, the buffalo, the last of its kind, is ladled on a little thick, but to get the point across, because that's where people's, I think, understanding were. I remember one person also, one of the early reviews said that it was so sad that just, half a season later, it's too bad the Salt Vampire didn't come along a little later, because apparently by Horta time, we do have the understanding not to just the Salt Vampire was killing, and it was apparently sentient because it could process and mock whatever it got to. Too bad the Salt Vampire didn't fare as well as the Horta, which could have been wiped out eventually. Then those babies would have hatched. How do Horta babies survive without the mother? That would have been interesting. So the other thing that's funny about this is if you're watching with your 2025 eyes, you keep watching the extras, right? Even if they have a line. Green, Darnell, all of them. Nobody's in red. In fact, there's no red shirts in. They're dying. It's the blues and the golds. Why poor science folks and even command guys get stuck on this away mission, landing party. There are no red shirts in this for half of the episode. And then you see some in the corridor. You see some busy. You see a technician. But there's no red shirts with speaking lines, really. There's no Scotty here. Now, look, Jimmy Doohan is still under a 13 of 26. He's still under a part-time contract. He's not a regular at all. Now, he's in Corbomite Maneuver. He just doesn't happen to be in this one that gets picked to be the debut. In fact, Jimmy is not in Charlie X either, the second episode to air. If you think about it, you know what the third episode to air was. The audience third experience with Star Trek was the second pilot. That means also that the first time the audience saw Scotty, he was in good old Ops Tan or Ops Sand, whatever that was, right? Where no man, the Ops division is in tan, which was hard to see on old TVs. Now, if you have a bright, shiny spark, you can see the difference between that gold and the tan. It does kind of look like night and day. For years on black and white, much less old color, and faded prints in syndication, there was no, for a while, I thought that there were only two colors in the second pilot. Yeah. It's not until the fourth episode that people got Scotty in red, and that was Naked Time. And Scotty's all over the place in Naked Time because, you can't mix antimatter gold. Matter and antimatter gold. You cannot do it, Captain. So, sometimes, gang, it's worth not assuming. Not only not assuming you're not going to remember something from a show, but this is what I say all the time. We can't help but watch something in our youth, watch something 10 years ago, watch something before 9/11, watch something before an economic crash, watch something before a pandemic, watch something before a tyrant takes over, and go back and see the thing you know in your head. You've got it cemented in your brain. It's etched in your memory. Go back and watch it again with the fresh eyes. And I know it was just a couple of moments there. But I fell off my chair that opening 5 seconds seeing Uhura down at the helm. So all this time about seeing Uhura on Strange New bopping around to different stations. Well, sure, you remember when she jumped up to take the helm in Naked Time. But think about this. By the time people saw her do that in Naked Time, in the original airing, they had seen her sitting down there down front. First chance, the first shot of the bridge that viewers ever got was Uhura sitting at navigation. It's amazing. Never say never. Never say never. This franchise, these episodes, these series, all the way up through the latest ones. This is why Star Trek in the rewatch is so ubiquitous. But sometimes it's more than, I'm going to rewatch Lower Decks. I'm going to rewatch Strange New. Rewatching the original series. And again, not just for like the internal continuity of Trek, which is in your face and you can't help it. But just think culturally what this meant in the time. And, I know the interracial kiss, the same gender kiss of the Daxes. Whatever it is, there's more than that even. And sometimes it's subtle. And is if you dive into anything that's, earlier than today, it's just fun. It's just fun. Anyway, that all came to me. I walked away thinking, wow, I could have rolled my eyes and said, oh, the man trap for the millionth time. And then I see Nichelle sitting there, not just sitting there, but realizing that's how the American TV audience and anyone watching these in the order that NBC sent them out in to other countries when they finally started airing in the UK and Germany and Australia and around the world. Canada was the only near simultaneous release, right? It was at least a few years before they got to other countries. But to see that and realize that, and let us celebrate Nichelle and George, and yes, Grace Lee and Dee. Watching Dee be McCoy, that was Dee's introduction and McCoy's introduction to the world. Watching him be a little lovelorn for his young self, and Kirk almost acting fatherly to him, or at least buddy. Anyway, that is amazing, folks. I can't wait to dive in and see what I've stirred up here. That's going to do it for our topic today. So hold on. We're going to get into the chat in just a second. Look, if you're watching us later, so much is happening in Star Trek right now. So hope you had a happy Star Trek Day 2025. Did any of this stir up anything for you? I would love for you to keep the conversation going. Leave a comment in the comments in the thread here if you would like to. Please do. And join us maybe someday on a Tuesday if you have a chance. You can even bop in, as many do, keep the sound down, turn on your closed captions, and watch what's going on as the day goes by. And of course, you can join us at anything at LarryNemechek.com, any of the other podcasts, our experiences, and all of that, right? Just to say, though, as we do that, I cannot get away again without giving a shout out to our newest crop. Yay! Our newest crop of Patreon folk. So here's where I get to say thank you. Thank you, TTLers. How about I get centered? There we go. Chuck A. Yay! And James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbert Gunjansson, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Mitch Keith Rombach. I just realized I had them back to back. That's funny. Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, and yes, our live wires. Yay. J.R. Pull, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, Donna S. Runyon. Good to have you back, Donna. Brandon Coles, Dave Gregory, Jesse at Crusher Convo, of course, Chris Garris, and Casey Shafsky. Gang, I appreciate that. It ebbs and flows, but it's fun to have a bunch. I keep it very simple, $5, $10. It's the shout out, and it's access to the early years of Portal 47 backstage creatives, interviews, patreon.com/Trekland live. I need to catch those up. We made a good start. Some didn't get them. We'll get on it. I promise you. I promise you. Thanks so much. And as I mentioned, yay! Season 14, can you believe it, for the Trek Files is now up. TheTrekFiles.com is our home at Memory Alpha, where you can get everything together, the podcast audio player and a document of the week, and all the hot links back into Memory Alpha. This week, with our great guest to kick off the season, and it just happens to be Star Trek week, and it happens to be the 35th anniversary year for Where No Man's Gone Before the Second Pilot. Yes, none other than George Takei is the guest. It's a slightly longer edition, of course. Who wouldn't want it to be? Hope you can take it. I think it's a little over a half hour, so you want to check in on that. It's just great to talk to George and check in with him, knowing he's blowing and going and hanging in there and still representing all the ways, and still proud to do his live long and prosper. Oh, yes. Oh, my. We got a good laugh out of George at one point, so that's in there, too. It wouldn't be a George visit without one. So all the podcasts from Roddenberry there, podcast.roddenberry.com. You can get us at any podcast place of choice like iTunes, all of those. But just remember, we do now have a live meetup for the Trekophile, spelled with an F, every other Monday on Discord, on the Roddenberry Mission Log Discord. If you join their Discord Patreon for $1 a month, you got access to Trekophiles Tonight every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific. But also all of the community, all of the podcasts have a mob. A lot of them have a live show, talk back, and there are other live fans that put together all kinds of other genres, other franchises, and just some fun stuff. There's a huge community at the Mission Log Discord. You should check it out. So it's pretty humble, right? I mean, $5 for Trekland, $1 for Roddenberry. I hope that wouldn't put anybody else out. And again, once more, it's a great time of year. I'm working on some special group tours right now, but you can always come on your own, as a single, as a couple, as a family, for TreklandTreks.com. We will set you up with a wonderful, memorable, unique, custom away mission, 4 stops, a quick lunch, 6 hours around SoCal, something that makes sense. I've helped you pre-plan it, and then I'm leading you, and I'm wrangling your cosplay and your action figures and whatever else is part of the day. Check it out, TreklandTreks.com, or you can come to my page and find it too. Otherwise, gang, if you're leaving us now, it's Larry Nemechek on the Blue Sky. Larry Nemechek still on the Twitter X. It's Larry's Trekland. Yeah, on Instagram. We put some lives out yesterday, if you didn't catch it. And on Facebook, sure. And YouTube, please like and subscribe us there. Portal47.net, your backstage insider's guide for more in-depth Trek all year long. There are no post-con blues with Portal 47. Check that out too, would you please? We have a great community, and also, well, you can't see the sign, but we've done 10 years nearly of this monthly package. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary We have the logo ready, I think, to unspool. I'm just confirming the guest for our open house this year. It'll be next month. Date to be arranged, TBA'd. As usual, it'll be open. It'll be a free night. We'll give you samples of we'll have a sample Ask Dr. Trek roundtable, and we'll have a sample hour at least with a guest, a high profile guest that you'll love to talk with. Come in the chat, and a few people maybe even get a chance to ask a question after I'm done. Anyway, put that on your radar. The 10th anniversary Portal 47 open house is coming next month. Guest will be announced shortly. The world moves on, gang. The world moves on. So thank you once again for joining me this time. If you're watching us later, check it out next week. Check out the past catalog, and maybe you can catch us live sometime. All right. I'm going to close it out for you folks. Just saying. Stay healthy. Do all the things. Janet had a croupy virus that kept her at her. It finally tailed off after about 2 weeks. There's all kinds of stuff going on. You don't have to have a pandemic to take care of yourself and be at your best. And let's just hope nobody unleashes a pandemic on us, right? Which brings me to the question, please, please, please stay awoke. Check the sources, all right? And trek well, everybody. Okay. Woohoo! Back scroll time. Hope everybody's doing well. Let's see what's going on here with the Chatteroony. Talk about an organic one. Yeah. The whole Legos finally, which was one of the worst kept secrets of the last 6 months. A Lego Star Trek finally. Other things happening. Let's see how everybody is again. Happy Star Trek Day +1, right? Number 59. I guess, are we officially now into the 60th anniversary countdown? Is that what's happening? People are getting way more excited than I envisioned for the 60th. I think the excitement over the 60th is way bigger than, say, the excitement for the 40th. That was 2006. We were kind of depressed because we were wandering in the wilderness. And the excitement over this JJ guy and whatever the hell he was going to do hadn't really sunk in yet. What do you think? You thought that Targ on Scouts was Murph at first, the same colors. That would have been funny. Rose, it's always good to see you. Yep. Well, no argument here, Daniel. Hey, it's good to see you back, Daniel. It feels like it's been a while. Where are you coming from? In the States or somewhere beyond the States? I'm just curious. But yes, they should not have canceled Lower Decks. I was just having this conversation with my animated friend Aaron about how much cheaper either version of animation is than live action, and how if you wanted to keep a lifeline of Trek going through a fallow time, do good animation. Don't make it cheap, but there you go. There you go, Carl. Of course you did. Got together with some of your Starfleet Command 7th Fleet chapters there, right? In northern Utah, southern Idaho. Held a change of command ceremony for a chapter that just turned 39 years old. Oh, I meant to say congratulations to the UFP, the United Federation of Phoenix. I meant to do this. Yes. Among the groups this weekend, and a 50th anniversary party for the United Federation of Phoenix, our friend Dr. Dave and all the gang there celebrating. They had two of the founders from 50 years ago came. They had a huge celebration. How awesome is that? So 50 years ago was 1975, which is, hotbed of fandom activity. Had been going on for 3 or 4 years by then. You had the STAR bases, Star Trek Association for Revival bases, which my old original club, Starbase OKC, was a chapter of. And our college club that I started was a mock chapter of, Starbase ECU. So there you go. Everybody having a good time on Star Trek Day. What else is going on here? Wanda is a vote here for the Con audio series. Check it out wherever you get podcasts. Yeah, we're going to do a second opinion on Con. I was wondering how we would do this or how frequently we would do it, but we'll see. We just all kind of got bombed yesterday, and I was on the road. I wasn't Con I was waiting for. Scouts I did not realize. Scouts honor. Oh, thank you, Dave. Well, you know what? It's just a moment in time, which is what Trek Files sometimes can be. A moment in time that doesn't get talked about. And sometimes when you're focusing on a piece of paper, it's a good focuser, just like an image. In an interview, sometimes an image can unleash all kinds of memories from a person. I mean, it does. We do that, right? We do that with each other, with ourselves. And I just thought, let's do this. I'm always looking for the anniversaries nobody is celebrating, partly out of desperation for content, for topics, whether it's a con panel or now these 47 different shows it feels like I have. But yeah, we were so great. And George had a couple of mentions there that I had I'll spoil this. The Bruce Lee story was one I wasn't expecting. So you got to go listen now, everybody. You got to go listen if you weren't already. Okay, another vote for Star Trek Con. Okay, Mona, don't have a wreck, but good. I thought you were going to say every time I don't watch every time I don't watch the Man Trap, an angel loses its wings. An ensign loses all the salt in his body of any color, of any shirt color. Cool, Wanda. Good. Oh, no, don't apologize. That is awesome. You watched. I kept that. It's the only Columbia House tape I kept was the black and white. Is that on YouTube somewhere? The one they did at first where they went back and forth to black and white because of the actual color snips they pulled out to use in the menagerie. Yeah. Until they found the full color reel. Oh, Steve Areno, you're hanging in with us. Yay. Good to see you, Steve. Steve, I really am thinking I'm going to get to see you next year. I know, I shouldn't say things like that. Knock for Micah. But, or if I was in the UK, I'd have to say touch for Micah. I love the way those things divulge like that. Anyway, love you, dude. I'm going to hang around as long as Star Trek hangs around. Are you kidding me? Oh, Joel. Well, there's always next year. You can ramp it up by the 60th. You can remember your Romulan ale and your food cubes. Trelane didn't visit. Rose, why not have a triple celebration? The Cage, the Man Trap, and Where No Man's Gone Before. Sounds good to me, Rose. Go for it. Some folks weren't like in marathon sessions, so 3 hours might have been a little bit. There you go. Christoph, good to see you too here. I guess we didn't start with you, but it's all good, by the time we get to the finish line. Christian, good to see you. I'm just in a good hello to everybody mood today too. What? I'm a sound effects magician. What did I do? Yep. Oh yeah. Plushy McCoy is back there, enjoying the scene. Everybody is. Oh, really? Well, thank you, Ranger Donnie. Tomorrow is X-Files Day and also Galactic Orville Day. Okay. $16 hours on YouTube? You mean Star Trek stuff? Random, like podcasts and documentaries, or just random YouTube? Because it was the kickoff weekend of the NFL. Hey, Sherry, and yes, everybody. Your 2025 eyes love it. Good call. Well, Scott, I didn't think of it either till this is what I'm saying. It whacked me in the face. I was like, oh, and my head went to what was in people's heads, even though they didn't know. Nobody sat there at 5 minutes after 7 or 8 or whatever, 10 seconds in and went, wow, Uhura's sitting at the helm. Nobody had that. Nobody had that context. But they're, and again, in hindsight, it's amazing for us to look at that, much less think what the unawares, the unwashed were doing. The original red shirt, Bud Albright. I got news for you. That was Eddie Paskey sitting. I meant to say this. That was Eddie Paskey sitting next to Nichelle, right? Mr. Leslie later. I don't think he had the name by now, unless he got it in Naked Time somehow. But yeah. Yes, that was Eddie. So if anybody was the original red shirt, it was. But you know what? We'll let Bud do that. He said, Lucy surprised everyone on the set by announcing Star Trek would be made in color. Does that line up with your knowledge? I can't believe that they're shooting with a cinematographer and they're showing, Finnerman is experimenting with his light washes and nobody knew by then that it was going to be in color. He may have meant figuratively, not literally on the set. They may have decided, because the world was going there anyway. The world was, look at all the shows. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I think Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, did they, like I Dream of Jeannie did its first season in black and white, then went to color. But it was in the switcher. It's just like when all the movies went from talkies to sound. The new tech wave came in. TV went from black and white to color. They keep trying to do that with 3D. They kept thinking, oh, here's the big 3D wave, and then it never happens. Any of the 50s wave, the 70s wave, whatever. So I don't know about that literally. That seems a little far-fetched, but especially since they had filmed The Cage in color and then Where No Man in color, that kind of thing. They did show one of the pilots first. Well, see, all bets are off overseas. I have no idea what, I think now that the anal Germans and the anal Brits and the anal, I think everybody has now documented their own country's history with showing Star Trek. So good on that. It all should be preserved. But I'm talking about the main one. The reason for the season. Boy, you wish the world would keep TOS in production order. It's the way you learn to watch it in syndication and on home video. I know. But it's like the effects. I thought of this. This is like the visual effects, the opticals from the original series. When they remastered, to me that was fine as long as they didn't Soviet encyclopedia. They didn't bury the original versions. If you could toggle back and forth, you could choose either way. I was fine with that. Because I knew some people, they can't help it when they're 8 or 12 or 26, just appreciating the original. That's why the whole, we've got to do Star Trek for 2017 audiences for Discovery. Yeah, there's good and bad with that. And there's ways you can have it, but shouldn't have to be a choice. It's a false choice. You should be able to have it all the ways if you just are smart and think about it. Yeah, Rose. Well, The Cage is 61 years old. And Mantrap is 59 years old. So, yes, roughly 60. But the Mantrap technically wasn't a pilot. It was the 4th episode filmed after the pilots. Because the pilots were like one-off entities. Yep. Settler Wives. The real Settler Wives of Rigel 12. In color. Yes. What was the bluest skies you've ever seen are in Seattle. Yep. and the hills the greenest green in Seattle. Like a beautiful child growing up free and wild, full of hopes and full of fears, full of laughter, full of tears, full of dreams to last the years in Seattle. Okay, there's a second verse. I'm not going to do it. William. Hi, William. I know we have met and talked, but maybe not often on Tuesday, but I think you've been here. So, yay. Hi, welcome. What in my mind, if they exist, what my mind, are the best, most insightful places to get perspective on Joseph Pedney and Mark Daniels? Yeah, didn't Joe and Mark, say Joe like I knew him. I shouldn't do that. Joe Pevney and Mark Daniels, didn't they alternate like the first half of the second season? After they tried out all kinds of directors, Bob Justman was so proud. They wanted, that's why the second season to me is the heart and the maturity of Star Trek. Yeah, Gene Kuhn, and you had these two directors alternating. And well, one thing would be, do you have the Star Trek II interview book by Bill Rotzler? Forget his character book. It's crap. He was making canon that was just ridiculous, and everybody's ignored it since, except he's the first one to put Nyota Uhura and Hikaru Sulu on paper, because other fandoms went different ways. That wasn't what Jeff Mandel's fan circle in New York had. Upenda Uhura and what was the Sulu first name for that? Itaka Sulu and Upenda. But this book, and if you can find like the original interviews with both of them that probably Ed Gross did for Starlog, and I'm sure they're both, I know at least one of them are in here. He had several directors. Lawrence Dobkin, Ralph Sinensky, that were, Mark and Joe, Mark Daniels, Joe Pevney are in here, if you can find this. And then if you're lucky enough to find something on video, maybe in the latter days, I don't know. That's why we've been so blessed to still have Ralph Sinensky. He's 104 now, 105, but he did a lot of podcasts with Scott. He did a sit down with me. We reutilized it for audio for the Trek Files also. What about the hook? What was the Star Trek hook? You mean what hooked in people? I don't know, Rose. I've never thought about that. Is that what you mean? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Well, this was part of it too, Carl. They wanted a monster show first with a planet surface. Yeah. There were a mix of factors. Yeah. What? We totally did. Can't lie. Some silly moments by later comparison. I missed the setup for this. Okay. I'm missing the setup for all of these. Well, she wore it 2 weeks in a row then. Although I guess by the time it aired, then it was rando, right? Her temporary assignment came in and went out. So, what would be cool is if Strange New World really insists on this lumbering into Strange Where No Man second pilot days. Do we get a black communications officer, Alden, a male, filling in for Uhura, or is she gone away and coming back? All kinds of things. Way more than even the Doctor situation. Multiverse times, the good old days. Yeah, just natural world building. Melanie, you've got a novel here. My computer's messed up first. Oh no. Have you tried duct tape, Melanie? Oh my gosh. Well, excuse me, that is not an editorial comment, Melanie, at all. I'm glad you're here with us for Star Trek Day week. Um, yeah, people were coming and going in shifts last week. It was kind of funny. Hey, Randy. Randy, hi. Glad to meet you. I think. Is this a meeting? Have you been by before on a Tuesday? If not, welcome. Welcome. Hope you can make it back or hang around here for a little bit. Yay. Um, oh no, Steve. A Cedarvale story? Remember at Cedarvale Gardens? 1980. It was 80, bud. It was the summer after you can't take it with you. I asked if you could name the episodes in order. You did, and I'm not shocked to find you still talking about them. I'm hazy now, though. But all we had was 79. It's like that old joke. Teacher says, Johnny, when I was your age, I could name all the presidents. And Johnny says, yeah, but there are only 6 of them then. But thank you, man. Your brain goes there too. You're here, dude. You can't, no. You can't. Once a cool nerd, always a cool nerd. Come on. I could name them in order. Steve, the other night we were watching something where Greek letters came into play, and I was trying to see if I could still do the Greek alphabet in order. And I a second or two, and I got there. Can you still do the Greek? Yeah. Do you know the words to the Alpha Side Drinking song? Let's see here. Hey, Dan, you always thought it was weird how the LA area got yesterday before the farthest star. Oh, considering how good yesteryear is generally regarded, how much of a disappointment must it have been if you'd assumed the subsequent TAS episodes would generally be up to that standard? Or people were just shocked that the cartoon was Saturday morning cartoon was as good as it was at all. That might have been the glass half full, half empty. And then it took a few episodes to pile up before you realized, okay, well, this is Filmation animation, which wasn't that different than Hanna-Barbera or anybody else. You know, the rotating backgrounds and the occasionally seeing the spot in the layers in the animation. Yep. Well, Beyond the Farthest Star, that was because George was running for a transportation district seat, and his opponent said it was unfair that he got free advertising, even though it was just his voice and his cartoon. You know, and Cthulhu was such a dominant figure in all the animateds. This is true. I was also thinking about this, Michael. Thank you and hi. And I think you get by on a Tuesdays occasionally, so good to see you. That did feel very ensemble-y, even without Scotty in the mix, because you had Rand in there. And, you know, it was interesting also. There's a moment, and they did it for camera angle because it was very compact. But when Crater, as the salt vampire in Crater form, comes to the bridge and they do that tight shot, Uhura's sitting at science, at library computer, and Sulu is at the comm station. Now, on when we watch that and go, why was Sulu not just filling in at library computer science and Uhura was at her own station? Why not that? And of course, nobody at the time thought about it. The audience didn't go, what? Because they weren't glued into knowing that's Uhura's station. And they're seeing them bop around at different places. I think Sulu is actually not at the helm as much as he is at the helm in this, as I was saying. So you get those wacky moments like that too, which aren't wacky of themselves. They're just in hindsight a little odd. But that ensemble feel that started to lean toward, Shatner. Part of that was Spock breaking out as a character, and then Grace Lee's sad turn, and then just trying to get more stuff for George and Nichelle to do. What episode was your first? Mary? There you go. Could be. Hi, Randy. Good, you're still here from 30 minutes ago. Your agenda would be that you want to generate discussion and feedback to the powers that be that we need many more episodes of Strange New Worlds. Yeah, well, you mean like beyond the 16 that are promised. I Yeah, it hasn't been. Well, they've said end with well, I don't know. I just think that the world is so murky. Never say never again. Uh, yeah, let's see. You do know that it scared you. Yeah, bonk bonk on the head, but it was unsettling. That's true. Well, I'm glad you figured it out, Melanie. The great keyboard mystery has been solved. Yikes. Your battery cover held batteries in for your keyboard. Wow, wow, wow. Interview with Anson. They ask him, what do you think will become of Captain Pike? It sounded to me as though he hinted at a new series in the works. Captain Pike? Yeah, it's a mini series. Only lasts for like 2 episodes. Captain Pike and the Cadets. Oops. Yeah. Well, now speaking of NBC, Donnie, this evening marks a new America's Got Talent, also streaming on the premier tier of Peacock. Are you on the payroll for Peacock there, Dave? Didn't really see it as a shapeshifter. It was almost hypnotic. Yeah, well, it was vampiric. That's why part of the reason they got to the salt vampire was it was hypnotic. It what do you call it? It froze its victims so it could have an easier time of it. Yeah, which is not shapeshiftery. And there's other kinds of shape, Iman, what was right. So that's a thing. But shapeshifter, not shapeshifter capital S as the changeling shapeshifter. I just meant it has a shape-shifting ability, which it obviously did, and which has come up more than once, right? Yes, they would have given Nancy salt. The Federation must have plenty. They could always replicate more. I know. It's not just this one little ship and this one little whatever. Well, Bob, things do evolve quickly. There were some red shirts. There were some like engineering guys working, but they didn't have them as security guards. Maybe that wasn't a thing yet. I don't know. Maybe they decided they needed it. But there are security guards. You see them when they're looking. You see the security teams in Mantrap being the most efficient security I've ever seen organized on board. Right? Doing eyeball to eyeball check-ins with each other. Yes. You think Picard will go back to that planet and live out his days with that woman? Are you talking about Vina and Talos 4 and the Telosians? Hey, Michael, Poteet, it's been a while. Are there letters in the Roddenberry archives from anyone who wrote in after episode 3 confused about the visual differences? Not right offhand. That would be interesting to see. Or if episode 3 was so early that people weren't settled yet. Because This Side of Paradise is late in the season. It's like number 25 or something as far as airing goes. It was either right after or right before City on the Edge. I just know Operation Annihilate's the last one. In season 5 of TOS, they find a cure for Pike and rescue him. Let's see. What's always a possibility? I missed the timing here. Just a few weeks after the second Doctor's swan song ended. Are we talking about Patrick Troughton, or are we talking about Micah Parsons? No, we're talking about Mark Piper. Yep. Dr. Crater kept asking for salt. They ignored his request. Yeah. If you're watching TOS on Blu-ray, who prefers to what? Good question, my figure. That is still a toggle. I have older discs over it. That is still toggleable, right? It's still an option. Because it's not an option on streaming, unfortunately. Oh, Wesley, could recruit Pike and Vina to be supervisors. Do they have to stay on Talos 4, though? Can they take off and do that? Love the original effects. But see, one thing the original effects versus later the remasters take away is watching when they would recycle a ship model, right? When the Botany May comes back as the Woden, the freighter in Ultimate Computer, kind of like they think people forgot that 10 months earlier, kind of, or about a year earlier. They were both late season. What do you say? Watching all the series in chronological order right now, it'll be a shock for him to go from Disco Strange New Worlds and then see TOS. There you go. What are you saying, my figure? The one thing you can take away from today's subject is I need to go back and rewatch The Man Trap. Well, I started saying my work here is done, but it never is. But also, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, here's the thing. I'm not gatekeeping who does. I'm not keeping score how many people I can stampede over. I think the meter at Paramount Plus went up on The Man Trap anyway. Tends to do. Great topic. I'm old enough to have been alive when The Man Trap was first broadcast, but can't be sure if I saw it or not. Long time. I know, Red Sherman. I didn't control our TV. I was a little kid. I mean, like grade school kid, like second grade. Yeah, second grade. Ah, Mrs. Folly. Oh, cool, Sherry. Thank you. Little something extra. I had an hour to kill. I was not going to go stand over in line by that theater for an hour extra, but I had to get, it's LA. I wanted to get down to Century City before rush hour. So I got on the way at 3:00. Took 45 minutes to go the 20 miles or something. Speeding up, slowing down. But thank you for that. Thank you. Hi, Philip. The whole supervisor traveler stuff is ripe for a Star Trek style Doctor Who show. As long as they don't get sued. Yes. What would we call it? Travelers and supervisors? That's such a sexy title. Supervisors and travelers. Travelers and supervisors. Star Trek time agents. And not Dumbler and Luxley. But I agree with you. I can't wait to see the reactions to this week's episode, to the finale, aspects of the finale. Oh, well, good. Well, I was doing what I could do and not blow away and stay in the sun and not, go gray or not go into look like the back end of a dappled quarter horse. This is me. Oh, we watched Lost in Space every week. I remember that. But that was Sunday night. Bonanza was on Sunday night after dinner, right? At 7? Well, Central. 8 Eastern. Oh, Randy, see? It worked. They put a kid in the show and the kids watched. You're such a statistic. You're such a demo. Oh, well, maybe they got your letter and it took 20 years, but you got Wesley. Maybe. And then you got Jake. Oh, are you thinking about going on the tour? Hey, look, if you would come on the tour, I would gladly bring along Plushy McCoy. Oh, yes. Absolutely. Oh, back skull time. Okay. I could today, Carl. I don't know. Did I? I think I did. Yes, I did, because I got the hellos. Calcium tablets. Well, I sure wouldn't put them out in my hand. Humph. Yeah. Oh, your nephews will have to share that Lego Enterprise D, but you'll get one. Hey, Scottish Trekker. Well, okay, we'll try to overlook it this time. Okay. Now are we? Oh no, just gotta find the right way to get there. Not to the end of the chat yet. Yes, I think we've exchanged this already, but you're free to go. You weren't involved with Star Trek chapters when the different Utah chapters. Oh, the stars, yeah. But you've collected the scans of their news. Oh, cool. See, Carl, you're a walking, talking, living archive. That's good. Someone needs to keep this stuff. That's been I can't do the whole world, but I'll try to do my little arena. Oh, I wish I had. There were some early copies of the Galactic Gazette, which was Star's early newsletter. Oh, and a vote for the Con podcast. I try to say audio drama because to me a podcast is unscripted and it's nonfiction. It's not a drama, a play. And we don't say radio play anymore, which is what the golden age of radio. People would say, oh, it's a radio play. So it's audio drama now. I try to. Sometimes we mess up. Okay. Wait, are you talking about coming out here? Okay. I'll tell you about it. I'm not trying to be mysterious or vague posts. Don't know if the color / black and white version is on YouTube or anywhere else to stream, but you have it on VHS. Did you tape it off the night they showed it when it was a big deal? That Gene recorded all those interviews like in the transporter room in the corridor for? Hey, Pedro, glad you could make it. Oh, I was making sound effects? Okay. This is a thing, Red Shirt. I wondered if we could have would anybody mind if we had Star Trek Week? Really hope the 60th anniversary announcements aren't the only things we're getting. You mean what's been announced so far? I bet other things will come along. If things start to take off and there's money plunked down for events and such. I did mention that we're doing the Geek Nation tours. Do I even have a thing? I might. Yes. Nope. Not that. Oh, I bet I don't. Dag nabbit. Do I not at all? Not at all? Not at all. We're going to start promoting it, but just so you all know, in fact, I'll have Terrace on as a guest now that I can do that. Geek Nation Tours, the big LA to Vegas multi-day tour where it actually feels like a tour, is the week before Vegas next year. I think it starts on July 30th for 5 or 6 days, and we take you to Vegas. And then as an extra, we go out to Valley of Fire is an option also, or for first-timers just coming in that day. But the big Geek Nation Tours, LA to Vegas returning next year. geeknationtours.com with the Valley of Fire offered as a separate one day. On Con Eve. You're not missing the convention. You go out 7 a.m. to beat the heat and come back. We're back by 2 p.m. And then you've got all of Tuesday. I can recuperate and do landing party. Everybody can do their thing. So just so you know. Oh, cool. H and I thought of this once and didn't follow up. So H and I did a Star Trek day. Cool. Of documentaries. Very nice. Very nice. Underwhelming announcements. What? You didn't think the Lego was historic? Yeah, well, the anniversary is coming at a fluxy changeover time. Like that, I think they would have loved to have had this ownership change happen 2 years ago. It would have made it easier to have a celebration on Star Trek's timeline calendar schedule. Oh, now I'm going to just urge you, Pedro. I was amazed that Prodigy aimed at its age range and was as canonistic as it was. So this is the young kids, like the 4-year-olds. And somebody pointed out, like, they're not going to be checking how many, I don't know, how many, whether that Telluride is clovened or digited, which now apparently can be both ways. It's just going to be a kid's thing and should be classified as a little kid's thing. Somehow Prodigy made it to being adult canon, which is amazing and awesome. Yeah. Maybe it's for little kids. What if it was the Star Trek program for little kids in the 2200s? I don't know. You could go there, maybe. Oh, my favorite. Yeah, everybody did that. Well, just go down the line. Anybody who had been on TV before 65. Now, Bonanza might have been filming in color for a long time. But, yeah, in the sitcoms that changed over. Oh, yeah, season 1 of Lost in Space was in black and white. And they went to color the year they were a year ahead of Trek. Terrarium had so many Easter eggs to previous Star Trek. I had to lay down from the dizziness. Hey, Frank, it's good to see you. Yes. Let's see. Another Portales, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for support, and thanks for enjoying Portal 47, Frank. You watch them in order. Well, which order? No way would I watch The Man Trap as the first episode. First The Cage, then We're No Man. Well, so last time I checked, it's a free country here anyway. Last time I checked. So yay for that. You're free to watch them either way, or do both, or neither. I don't know. Matt, you said you went to the third planet. Oh, that's awesome. They had Bud Albright at Destination. Cool. Very good. And he was a legend. There you go. Yeah, I've never talked with him. I need to do that next time he does the LA sign. Or is he in London or in New York? If he's West Coast, I need to do that. Projections is season 1. Yes, Voyager, because of the 4 holdovers. Well, yes, that's me, because I saw them filmed. So in my head, the 37s is the finale of season 1. And it's too underwhelming to be the kickoff for season 2. It felt, it's sad. It's sad the way 37s go. Well, what's stupid is stupid UPN was so clustered that they didn't give them a memo about planning the season and holding 4 shows over to be early until they were upon them. They were winding down the season and said, oh, pick 4 of your episodes to hold over for next. Like, what? Do you not know how star dates work or how they were trying to make them work? Yeah. We should celebrate 60th year for the script being written. Yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for celebrating the celebration. For Star Trek Day, Melanie, you made a whole weekend of it. You went to a local con on Saturday. Cool. What was the con? Up your way, Central Valley? Wore a tropical variant red and black Federation uniform. Tropical. Before you changed into your robot outfit. Then, have you ever posted pictures, Melanie? Then you wore the uniform on Sunday, and on Monday, you wore your Live Long and Prosper t-shirt that Tobias Rex gave you. Oh, cool. Oh, he is. Okay, maybe he's just hip deep in a project. I hope. Okay. Oh, Melanie, you're throwing that at the life support, the livers, folks that were not veterans of Life Support Live. That's funny. Oh, you guys. Yeah, I didn't do the second verse. When you find your own true love, you will know it. Did they do that on the closing theme? I think so. Because one season was no theme, no lyrics. It was just the instrumental. Dum dum da dum 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 dum. It's very 1969, very Pacific Northwest, if that makes any sense at all. Very Bobby Sherman. Didn't sing it, but he could have. What? No, he did a recording. It's not the one they used. They have a chorus on screen, but Bobby Sherman released a single of it. Of course he did. Mantrap has a hilarious bit when Spock is trying to convince McCoy while being attacked by the creature going, "You see?" And McCoy is just like, "Well, she was always quite big boned." What? Yes. Full of laughter, full of laughter, full of tears, full of hopes and full of fears, full of laughter, full of tears, full of dreams to last the years in Seattle. That's it. You have what? Oh, well, there you go. It's dangerous to glorify a character in a TV show? Okay. When you glorify a character from a fan perspective, you take the audience out of the show. Well, excuse me. Oh, guys. That happens. That's happened in Star Trek. Yeah. You read a long time ago that her first name was Penda. Yes. Well, if you really want to be inclusive, they do that a lot on Memory Beta because they would have different, or they would have the comics do one thing in the 80s and they would have a pro novelist do something in the 90s. And if you're going to call it all beta canon, adjacent, or as I used to say, tier 1 and tier 2, and tier 3 was if a creative did it, but it wasn't on camera. And then tier 4 was if a non-show staffer did it, like myself or like Shane Johnson or Bijo or Franz Joseph. What are you saying, Pedro? You remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a few episodes like that. Michelangelo is the fan favorite, so they made episodes about him being Michelangelo. It takes you out of the show. Okay. However in the world you could get taken out of TMNT, I don't know. Ooh, okay. Ranger Donnie has a thumbs up here for Con and Scouts. Ranger Donnie, I read this and all I could think of was, it was fun. Oh, we're off on a deep tangent now, gang. It's the same with Spock. He's a favorite character and people love Vulcans, but to glorify people liking Vulcans because the writers are fans is not a good idea. It's a low point creatively. Well, you might say that about all the gimmick shows. Do we lean into them too much? It was great content on YouTube, but today you're paying for it. Okay. Let's see. Glad everybody's having your meetup. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, these Tuesday afternoons warm. Yes, Christoph. There was a day when I was going to move it, but then that went away. So yes, tomorrow is Ask Dr. Trek roundtable for the European and Midday Americas. Yes, that's a note for all you Portales here in the audience. Unless you want to jump in and join Portal 47 today. Glad to have you then too. We were just glad to have TAS, rotating backgrounds and all. Yes. Well, I think at that time, I listed them in aired order in college. I mean, the giant poster book was out, and that was the first time they had the aired versus the production, which blew my little brain. So thank you, Doug, once again. Doug, by the way, and his documentary producer are having, mean to say this, they're having a crowdfunder for, I think it's called Star Trek or Star Trek Star. Anyway, Google Doug Drexler crowdfunder documentary, and you'll get there. Speaking of strange new and Akiva Goldsman, you recently got the Lost in Space 1998 movie in 4K. Not a great movie, but it's dumbing down to the source material and awful dialogue is perfectly in keeping with, yeah, modern movies, so it fits right in. Oh, okay, that's where you went with that. Seeing Spock character development in The Cage and other episodes was very interesting. Deflector shields, full intensity. Yes. The way he did the lieutenant calling out the ship's second officer, whatever. Is that the same interview they showed on Good Day News out of Maybe? Maybe. There was a Good Morning America interview with the TNG crew, but that was like up in the morning in the dark. In the TV industry, what makes people watch a TV series? Oh yeah, well I knew the hook, what it meant generally. I just meant what did you mean as opposed to like who and what and how big a scope were you talking about here? What are you saying, Melanie? One of the reporters was out on location and he said he was jealous of the ones who interviewed Anson Mount. Okay, there you go. Oh, if Kurtzman gets his way, we'll get a Pike spinoff. It'll be a remake of TOS. I thought we were talking about the Paul Wesley spinoff, right? That's what has been out there. First year, something. Really hope cooler heads prevail, but well, look at the TV announcements. Okay. Yes. Can't go back to the original effects of TOS now. All right. What if I held a phaser to your head? Just kidding. Just kidding. Speaking of love for the original effects, the reuse of stock footage of the Enterprise at the beginning of the Return of the Archons after the first commercial break following the opening titles is fantastic. Now what? Oh, okay. Star Trek Travelers? You don't know, you're down. Hey, Bob, you recommend watching the episode that was supposed to air first, if only the effects were ready on time. Well, again, it was shot first. That's where they learned the stage craft of getting around those sets and lighting them and all of that. Yeah. For all the flack the 1998 movie gets, what, Nemesis? Insurrection? It's actually closer to the source material than the Netflix show. Wait, you're not talking about Star Trek. Lost in Space. Got it. Ironic considering how angry people were at the time the movie came out. Well, yeah. There you go. We're getting further and further away from the source material for Lost in Space. You saw a more recent animated episode, Fan Made, showing Kirk revisiting Triskelion. Yeah, there's an interesting entity out there doing animation, filmation style. Interesting. Okay. Yes, they did. Original footage, backdrop, and some scenes. Next year is the 6th anniversary. It's going to be big. And that's awesome. That's cool. 6 months ago, I thought, oh, well, the vendors in the studio will be scraping up things to throw out for a 60th, and it'll be meager and scrappy. And people were like, I'm not going to go buy that just because you slap 60th on it. But apparently not. People are sincerely, insanely. And part of that's because we've had a ton of, we've had the entire CBS All Access / Parent. We've had the entire Kurtzman era evolve, blow up, the week-to-week soap operas, all of that. Hi, D. Would I ever do a UK con? Me? I've done UK cons. I've done many more in Germany. But the second London destination Star Trek and the second destination in not in London, in Birmingham. But I did Sci-Fi Ball once, and I did Sci-Fi Scarborough. That. And then the first time I was in England was for Generations 2 the Generations Con, which was the Generations movie showing, and then they had a Royal Albert Hall convention, basically a show. But they managed to squeeze a vendor room into, I don't know, a glorified coat room or something. It was crazy. So yes, I would do a UK con. Get me over there, host me. See, your ideal list of exciting announcements are not realistic with the current Paramount management in charge. Well, it's not so much any one or the other. It's the fact that we're watching the changing of the guard, for lack of a better term. And nobody's committing and no one's jumping the gun. I think there's things going to happen once the dust settles. But yeah. Hi, Dee. And by the way, Dee, good to see you. I know you've been by with us lately. Did I say yes? Yes, I said yes. Okay. Happy to. Hey, Bob D. Okay. I'm just dropping by to say hi too. And there. Flexi time? Yeah, flexi time. Next year is also the 100th anniversary of NBC itself. Isn't it amazing? Next year's the centennial of Route 66. 26. Next year marks the centennial of the first building on Will Rogers Ranch. And okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring anybody down. Scouts was meant for toddlers and toddlers plus. Yes. I think that was the thing. It's not from Alex's shingle either. It's not a bad hideout. Lost hideout. Bad hideout. Very sad compared to. It's as if they think they can do any genre, and that's the whole reason for existing. Yeah. Yes, Learning Curve was an finale. Yes. Stupid, dumb little tin-plated network of delusions of grandeur execs move. Well, there's that, Timothy. Some people do, I think. I just don't think they're the ones that get together in hangouts and chat threads and talk about it. I think a lot of people just play their favorite movie and go on with it. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Okay. What are we up to, guys? We need to kind of wrap this up. Yes, Trek Star is the name of Doug's biography. Okay. We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. You really appreciate them. They just do so much. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Security. You watch them in alphabetical order? I don't know about that. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think I'm right behind you, Donnie. There we go. I don't think I'll pay attention to that. I'm too old school. I just watch for the game. Yeah, I'm more weirded out by that than I am about the original series stuff. But then that's just me. I know. Tonally, they are. You can tell developmentally. You can tell when people are gunning for the ending, what they want to get out on hiatus, and then when they come back all rested and refreshed. And you can tell that. You can tell that. The 37s has a finality to it that feels like it should be a end of an era, not a kick off a new approach kind of thing. Gang, that's going to do it. I think we're done. Yay. So much happening right now. which I don't think anybody really thought about recently. So much happening here with people digesting and giving. I hope the debate around scouts doesn't descend into something stupid, because you know what? Little kids and their parents and parents, Star Trek parents of little kids, won't care about all that. They'll get it. I don't think that's been a problem. Not the same dynamic it was with Prodigy, where the whole campaign was to get people of all ages, with or without kids, to watch Prodigy because it was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, Projections doesn't get near. I need to watch it again. I probably haven't watched it in 20 years. But I can see that as an early version of what that was the first time Louis Zimmerman was a character, right? I think. Anyway, it's so good to see everybody. Thank you so much again to all of our Patreonists, Patreonies. Thanks so much, guys, for helping us out here with everything on the tubes, on the thing. There's our socials. Again, please like and subscribe, do all the things, especially on YouTube. Would be great to see you there. If you're intrigued by Portal 47, check it out at portal47.net. If you are intrigued about a day tour for Trekland Treks, please check that out too at treklandtreks.com. Love to see you. Once again, I can't say enough about kicking off season 14 for the Trek Files and doing it with the great George Takei. I hope everybody gets a chance to go over and listen to that. And if you are of a mind, join the Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon for $1. Get on the Discord and join us talking about the Trek Files. Yes, the Trekophiles spelled with an F, all of you. I know you're out there. I'd love to have you live at 4 p.m. every other Monday. Next Monday will be the day. Next Monday will be that day. We didn't have one on, which wouldn't have happened anyway. I would have been on the road. Yeah. Yep. If you want to jump into my Patreon, it's patreon.com/Trekland Live. It's $5 or $10 a month. I appreciate the support, gang. Appreciate you hanging in with me. It was great to see so many, I think, new faces and names today, and some folks who hadn't been with us for a while, maybe months, maybe even. Good to see you again. Hope everybody had a nice, wonderful, you did what you wanted to do for Star Trek Day. Absorb the news. We'll be talking about that here next week. We'll let Scouts find its way a little bit first. Meanwhile, we have to do Second Opinion this week for Strange New Worlds, get that out the door. And I'm going to do some kind of a short version of a Second Opinion, maybe just 5 or 10 minutes for the Con audio series. And then we'll see where we go from there. Otherwise, gang, it's been great to see everyone. Spread the word. Let folks know also the Big Geek Nation tour is back. I need handholds. We'll get logos and things. Geek Nation Tour's big LA to Vegas tour will be back next year, the week ahead of the Vegas convention, and rides into it if you want to arrive there. Don't have to go to the Vegas convention. You can just get yourself home from Vegas when we're done. So that's happening. It's going to be busy around here as all get out. And some goofy things that we'll be talking about, even if it's not for the broad audience too, coming up in the next couple of weeks. So good to see everybody. Happy Star Trek Day. I just say, till next Tuesday at this time, unless you're one of the Portales coming to Euros and middays next tomorrow. Please, everybody, please stay healthy, do all the things. Stay woke, check the sources these days. And yeah, Trek well, everybody.